Righty, we're going to go ahead and get started today. Thank you for joining us. This is the Pre-K Survival Guide, Streamlining Early Learning with Confidence. We are here to share our solutions and to some of the barriers that our pre-K teachers face for our earliest learners. And so let's go ahead and start with who is on the call. I know we can see your names and your pretty faces, but if you would just tell us what your job title is and where you're from, that would be great. And anybody can start.
I can start. I'm Keela Anderson. I'm the instructional coach for Willard East Elementary.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Katie Spencer. I'm the Assistant Special Services Director in Willard, but I also oversee our early learner programs, PAT preschool, and early childhood special ed.
Awesome.
Kate, I like how you had to think about your title for a minute.
It's because it's so long.
No, I was like, that was great. You're like, wait, what is the whole thing? Well, I'm Shauna. I'm trying to see if I met you guys when I came to Willard. Fun fact for you from Willard, I went to college with Shannon.
Yeah.
So, but I don't have any good stories on her, so I can't promise you that. But, but my name is Shauna Stefanczyk. I'm the president and founder of Step Up.
I'm Jessica Graham, the lead literacy consultant with Step Up, and I live like 15 minutes from Willard. I live in the Brighton area. My kids go to Morrisville, so I'm very familiar with the area. I graduated from Bolivar, so we're all kind of close by.
Nice.
Sadly, I have no connections to that area. I'm from Kansas City. I'm Sue Herrera. I am the Director of Instructional Development at Step Up and a consultant, and I am happy to be with you today. If any other people join, Jessica, just let us know and we can stop and let them introduce themselves. But we want to just always start with the why of our company. We are Missouri educators trying to assist our other Missouri educators. We want to know how we can support schools in Missouri through teacher recruitment, competency-based learning, compliance with MSIP 6, which I know districts are all in right now, thinking about the testing season that is coming, MLS alignment, personalized learning, and to stop learning loss. So we are here to help with those barriers. And the barrier that we have addressed most recently is early childhood. And so I'm sure we're all familiar with the 7 domains of early childhood. I was not very familiar with them until I helped with project lead on our book that we just wrote and our competency, our proficiency scales for our early learning standards. And so language and literacy, science, math, expressive arts, social emotional development, which hallelujah, isn't that important? Social emotional development, please. Physical development and approaches to learning. And so we have dug in deeply to the Missouri Early Learning Standards and have learned all 7 of these domains and have taken some writers. We've contracted some writers who are experts in early childhood, and we have created what we hope is a pre-K survival guide. And so the question is, what makes early learning programs effective? And we've done some research and talked to some experts in the field. And some of the answers that we've found are that you need well-qualified educators, right? With specialized training in early childhood development. And one of the things that we know makes an educator well-qualified is the fact that they have clarity around their standards, right? You feel free to jump in, any of you who have things to add to this, because this is a very small list, but there could be other things. But we're going to start with well-qualified educators. We're going to go developmentally appropriate curriculum that balances play and structured learning. Play-based is so important with our earliest learners, with our toddlers to our pre-K. And then providing that adequate learning time with appropriate intensity and duration. So how many minutes are we providing? Is it viable? You know, we talk about guaranteed and viable for our, students that are in K through 12, but it needs to be viable for pre-K as well. Are we providing enough time on all the domains and giving students the opportunity to really interact with all of the standards? And then parents as first teachers is so important. And so we want meaningful family engagement that extends to home. We want to go from parents as first teachers all the way, bridge that gap to kindergarten to have a strong early childhood program. And we want to make sure that we are targeting support for diverse learners. We want all of our students to have what they need. So we're going to scaffold that support for them. So no matter if we are in a daycare or we're in a pre-K Title I program, these would be the attributes that we're looking for. Anyone want to add something to this? Anything you think we've missed or glossed over? Hi, Sarah. All righty. And please feel free to use the chat if you're not comfortable unmuting and chit-chatting. Feel free to put your comment in the chat. So just very quickly want to bring it back to John Hattie. We firmly believe that clarity is important, and his research shows us that the effect size is great when our teachers have clarity around the standards, instructional practices, and that they know how these might be evaluated. What's the evidence that we're looking for that our students are actually understanding and learning what we're teaching them? So that clarity piece is so important. We do have a pre-K survival guide, and it includes a digital curriculum management tool, vertical progressions, which we're going to show you in just a moment what those look like. And then we're calling them the MELTs, Missouri Early Learning Tools. We have hard copies and digital. And then we believe if you're part, obviously, of our Missouri Instructional Leaders Network, a member of that it's very, very beneficial. And so that is our pre-K survival guide, and we're going to dig into it right now. So this is a screenshot of our vertical alignment. And what's important for me as a retired elementary principal who struggled every year first quarter with my kindergartners, I'm just going to be real with you, trying to help them learn how to do school, is this alignment between pre-K, kindergarten, first grade, second grade. Where's the connection between my early learning standards and which ones actually connect into what they're going to be doing K1, 2? And so we've worked really hard at Step Up to find that alignment and provide that for Missouri educators. We've also created the proficiency scales, the 4, 3, 2, 1 scales. And the 4 we have started with at kindergarten. What does this standard look like at kindergarten? Even though it's an early learning standard, how and where does it connect with kindergarten? And you know, not everyone's ready for kindergarten, so how does it connect at transitional? Transitional kindergarten is not something we hear a lot about, but we created a 3.5 as an option to bridge that gap between our pre-K learners and our kindergarten learners. Do any of you have kids that maybe weren't quite ready for kindergarten? I know I did, like as a mom and as a grandma and as a principal. I saw kids every year that I thought, oh, they are not ready to be here all day, first of all. And they're not ready to sit still like we expect them, or supposedly we expect them to. And they certainly don't have the approach to learning that we expect them to have. And so is that transitional piece an option? The 3.0 is where we live, right? That's our target. That's our pre-kindergarten. That's one of our domains. So we're going to feature all 7 domains in play-based learning strategies to provide clarity. So this is a screenshot of what it looks like, and we'll dig into it a little bit more, but we're going to give you on the left side, we're going to give you what are the verbs in the standard, and on the right side, what are some examples that you might be looking for from your students with adult support. So we're not only going to give you what might you be looking for from your students, but suggestions for activities of how you could meet the rigor of the standard for our littlest learners. And then we're even going to go down to toddlers. So our level 2 is going to be approaching pre-K. We're going to talk about our toddlers. What would it look like if they weren't quite ready for that standard in the domain? What could we be doing with 2 and 3-year-olds? And then the part that I think is so exciting is the fact that we have also flushed out the level 1. What would it look like at home? And we actually had a writer who was a Parents as First teacher, and she helped us with some of these activities so that we made sure that we were aligning to what was appropriate. Because we do want everything to be developmentally driven so that the scaffolding makes sense. all the way from at home to when they get to kindergarten. Jessica, did you want to add anything at this point, or Sarah, Shauna?
I think that, well, and Willard's familiar with our product. They've got our digital tools and our original mats for our school-aged kids, our K and up. They're really developed with that mind frame of assessment. And that the difference here is that we're trying to give you observational things, right? Like we're not asking pre-K to do paper pencil assessments. We're not suggesting any of those types of things because we know how rich play-based needs to be here. And so there's a lot of those tasks built in on what your teachers should be observing. So I just that was one thing I wanted to point out, that we really do try to promote that hands-on play-based with our pre-K resources we've given and suggested, and that will be kind of a shift from our K and up, where it's really focused on that driven for assessment, things they have to have mastered at end of year, things they'll see on their end of year assessments, whereas this is more of that observational piece. What should we be observing our kids doing at this developmental stage?
And the
Thank
only other
you.
piece I'll bring out is Harvard was just releasing an article by an American psychologist talking about that sometimes in early, that was, so thank you, Jess, for bringing that up, because sometimes we put an overemphasis on the academic skills. And so that's why you'll notice this book is called something, it's a tool. It's not about assessment like the other grades. It has all the domains because you have to go well beyond the academic. It's perspective and social emotional, and all those domains are there for a reason. So I'm glad you brought that up. We want to make it clear. We're not saying now start assessing these peewees. And you've got to respect all of those things. But I think what we found as we were doing the work is there's not always a complete direct alignment to kindergarten academic standards. In this book, we have a little correlation where we went through, we aligned, the expressive arts to visual arts and music and movement. We showed you how it aligns to counseling, because in pre-K, they're teaching everything that electives and counseling does in this book. And so, but I hope that makes it clear. I think sometimes just changing the name, we're not calling these mats. They're not assessment tools. Everything early literacy is observational assessment, and we're building the whole child. So that's the purpose of going ahead and doing a scale for every standard in every domain. We just found when it says shows an interest in books, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Some of them, we tried to write it. If I was a new teacher coming in, and I've been in the game for quite a while, and I would have trouble with that. So we're just trying to create a tool that a teacher could have clarity immediately with, like, here's what expressing interest in books look like. And then we'll show you about print concepts to kindergarten, because there's some kids ready to learn left to right and to talk about a title. Yeah. So we'll show you where they're going. But what does that mean? And so that's kind of the point of it.
Thank you, ladies. So we have hard copy book, which is on the left, that has all of the proficiency scales for each domain, all the way from kindergarten down to at home. So the 4, the 3.5, the 3, the 2, and the 1. And then we also have the melts available digitally. And we're going to show you some examples of that. Jessica, do you want to chime in here?
Yeah. So you can get the hard copies, like she said, or digital, but we just thought it would be good to show what a completed CMT would look like. We know that some of our pre-Ks, we talk a lot when we do our trainings with districts about this guaranteed and viable curriculum and knowing when and how we're teaching these standards. And gosh, your pre-K people have so many. I think that was one of my takeaways from working on this project, is that preschool teachers do not get enough credit for all the things that they have to do to prep our kids to be ready for school. And so just having an ability to map it out, we wanted to show what that would look like, especially if that's just something that they've never had to really put out before, depending on if you're a daycare setting or not a school affiliated pre-K where you're just kind of on your own. So we just thought it would be good to show that, how that would look set up.
Right. So this first tab I showed you obviously is all of the domains, and gosh, I know there's over 100, it's probably close to 120. It's just amazing how many standards there are. And here is, Jess, I'll let you explain what this is. I'll make it a little smaller so we can
Yeah.
see the whole thing.
So this is just a scope and sequence that we actually kind of used some. We'll show you Lawson's here in just a second, but we kind of use some school districts that are already utilizing our product that's unlinked. We've always had these standards written out in this type of scope and sequence, but just not with our proficiency scales. But this is just an example of how a teacher could organize by unit. If you wanted to have unit themes, which we're all about, we love those pre-K themes and things that we can get the kids excited about. How you can then show your pacing, what we're doing first quarter, second quarter, third, how many weeks that's going to maybe take us, and then linking all those important resources and things you're using. We know how pivotal right now getting people and solid people in our classrooms are, and that transition and people leaving, what happens to all their stuff, and the reinventing the wheel and how tiresome that can be. So the other idea behind creating these scope and sequences is just having a landing page so that when you have a new teacher come in, whether they're non-certified or just a brand new first year teacher, you can hand them this scope and sequence and say, here's all your standards, here's the resources we use to teach those, and this is how we organize that. I don't know about you, I've taught 11, almost 12 years, and I never had that going in where it was just lined out really simple for me. And so I think being able to take some of that pressure off of these new teachers, especially when they have so many things for pre-K to be responsible for, is only going to help. So we've kind of given just an example of this first quarter. So if you want to scroll down, we're just showing how all of these standards, these are the ones we're going to address quarter one and make sure that we touch base and look at. Remember, again, a lot of these we're talking observational, and it's different, right, than the normal traditional setting, but how can we pace it to make sure that we're hitting all the things we need to? Do you want to talk about the Lawson example, Sue? Sorry.
Sure. No, before I move off of this screen, to me, just my teacher brain immediately goes to the color coding. And for me, it's easy for me to see, oh, I'm living in the green. I'm living in social emotional development quarter one. And of course, that makes sense. That's where we're going to need to be with our pre-K learners. And, I was able to mark those off as we place them. So I'm able to see what I'm using and what I haven't, what I still have left to do. In Lawson, they didn't have we hadn't finished the pre-K survival guide yet. And so they did it a little bit differently. Their color coding is not color coded to the domains that we have lined out. Theirs is by quarter. You can see that the green is quarter one, red is quarter two. And so this is theirs. And they've got other resources. But what it helped them do was to be able to create a quarterly checklist. This became very simple for them in assessment because they were able to take, well, if this is what I'm teaching quarter one, let me make an observation checklist just for these quarter one standards. It very simply plotted out their year for them, especially when it came to observational data, anecdotal data. But using our CMT, this is how it would look. When you come over here, let's say we decide to add a science one. Let's say I'm going to do asking questions here. And I go over and I say, hey, let's go ahead and add that to quarter one. I'm going to add it here at the bottom. It keeps the color coding so that I can see very quickly, oh, that's my only science standard. So for me, it just makes a difference. I thought it was value added for teachers. Questions or comments about what we've shown you at this point with the CMT and the digital?
I would be curious with you ladies on the call currently. I mean, we've been doing a few clients. Do you do a lot of pacing guides with your early childhood teachers? Because I feel like that's part of why we're doing the call. I wasn't trying to get you on the spot, right? But and going beyond even our public school pre-Ks to early childhood Head Start, calling it a survival guide of even having a plan, because there's so much you really are supposed to cover that's the point, is bringing up this new idea of, could we even help them pace out to kind of be strategic so you don't get overwhelmed like we do with classroom teachers?
That's what I was getting ready to ask, and Katie will probably have a better answer than I do. But in my building, I just have two pre-K teachers, and they both have kind of a different scope and sequence that they use. They both are great, but they kind of have, like where they like their themes and their units, and they kind of do their own thing. I think as a district as a whole, we're kind of wanting that kind of piece where, in general, we know all pre-K Q1 is kind of working on this set of things. So this is beautiful. My question was, because we do have the MAT tools and I love them. They're absolutely amazing. But I just noticed, like, your scope and sequence with your checkoff list that you created. Is that something that you are sharing, or are you just showing an example of what someone has done with that information?
That, so what that with the checkbox is
Yeah.
the curriculum management tool. You can buy the digital tools in that. So we sell that with your district, because I know it so well. Your district, K through 12, just bought the digital tools piece. It's sold in two different formats. It can be sold in a curriculum management tool, or it can just be sold like you've seen it.
Okay.
That makes
Yeah.
sense. So that's why
Yeah.
you haven't seen it before. But most of our rural clients will come in and we do this. So it's all in this nice, pretty package. We prefer it in this, we call it the CMT because we have to add another acronym, but we prefer it in there because now it's paste, you double click, here's everything you
Yeah.
need.
Yeah.
It's
It's
just
really
all in one
nice.
spot.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So one of the things I glossed over that I apologize is I want to talk just a minute about the writers that we contracted to create these proficiency scales. We were able to, send out messages and acquire pre-K teachers. So we actually had preschool teachers who helped us write this, and we had a parent as first teacher educator, as I said, a parent educator help write this for us. And then we also had our lead literacy specialist, Jessica Gray, helped with it, and then I was on it, and so was Sarah. Sarah, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sorry, I was on another call, so I kind of came in late. But my name is Sarah Rail, and I'm a trainer and consultant with Step Up. And so I'm really excited about this tool. I did help with one of the domains, but not only have I taught several years in elementary education, I stepped away for a while and opened up my own licensed daycare. We had licensed for 47 kiddos. And so and we built it right by a school district that was in big need. They didn't have a preschool program. And so just thinking about that and that perspective is just getting these kids ready. And you guys know that's on the call, how important that is to get them ready for kindergarten. And as soon as they would go to kindergarten roundup, they're like, oh, did you go to Cougar Den Daycare? Because Cougars was a mascot. And they're like, oh, we know you're going to be ready. But, just having a tool like this would have been wonderful to give my other teachers, my 4-year-old classroom teachers, because I was the director. But, and then I love the part that we did the parent support, because oftentimes we get new parents come in and they're like, well, how can I help my child? So if I had those tools to give them, right there, I think that would be a great asset to your school district as well. So anyway, a little bit about me. And so I'm excited about this tool, and I think it's going to be a great addition. So.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yes.
All righty. I'm going to keep moving. So we're just going to bring it back to the clarity piece. We always like to end with just a reminder that this is really about bringing clarity to our teachers and our districts, also so we can have that vertical alignment. We've left pre-K out for a while, right? And we're bringing them into the fold because they are so important. They are the foundation for everything that we do K through 2. So we have some things coming up, and I'm not stopping talking about pre-K, but I'm just keeping the ball rolling. We do have some things coming up. On April 14th on the network, we're going to be supporting SPED educators through our Insight tool. So if you have not heard about the Insight tool, please hop on the call and get some great information at 11 on Monday, April 14th. And then that same week, April 17th, writing standards-based RSP goals, bridging the reading gap, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be Jessica. Is that you on that one?
Yep, it's me.
Yay.
Wow.
Okay. And then I cannot say goodbye without giving a plug for our conference. We have a big conference coming up. It's in June in Columbia, and we would love to have you there. Are you guys already signed up to come? Anyone from Willard? Not too late. Just go on the Step Up Consulting website. It's a 1 day in Columbia. We are at a hotel. If you need to spend the night, you can. The guest speakers are phenomenal, and it is not necessarily Step Up related. It's just educators in Missouri doing transformative things, and they're sharing all of their practices with us. So it's a great time to collaborate and a great time to get away. It's a beautiful hotel. So any questions about our early childhood survival guide, our MELTs or our digital tools that we could answer for you?
A lot of people want to know when they're going to be ready. So we're finally editing now, and we're doing pre-orders, but we expect them to be in and ready to ship by mid-May. And so sometimes some people have pre-ordered one, so you can really take a good look at it. We do have some samples online of the virtual, and so you can see a good idea of what it looks like. But you guys, we have a special relationship with you, so we can even send you one to take a look at before you commit to do that. Just let us know.
Yes. All righty. I'm going to stop sharing just to see your faces and say thank you for spending some time with us today. And it looks like being in your car wasn't a bad thing today, right? Sunny and beautiful. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for staying with us today. We hope to see you again soon and hear from you soon.